Hey everyone, it's Cathy Zielske. Welcome back to my channel and the craft/dining room. School is just around the corner, and I don't know about you, but giving a card to a teacher is a great way to start the year out right. And I have a new stamp set all designed around celebrating amazing teachers. I happen to be married to one. My teacher card project is coming up next. Here's a look at the card project I'll be creating today. I don't know about you, but I am a big fan of teachers, all teachers everywhere. In fact, I'm married to one. Let's take a look at the products I'm using today. So here's a look at the stamp set that I designed, which is all about celebrating and acknowledging teachers. This would be great for both the beginning and the end of the year. All of these greetings are just designed to give acknowledgement to this hard-working part of our society. And believe me, they work hard. I've got this cool star stamp, Magic Stars from Simon Says Stamp, and I've pulled a few Oxide inks because I want to do some ink blending. But I want gold stars, so I've got some gold powder and some clear embossing ink, and I also have coordinating dies that are available for these stamps to cut out a handful of the greetings. So let's get started. First, we're going to take my insert pad right out of the MISTI. I always tape my pad down just so it doesn't shift when I'm doing my regular stamping. But for cling stamps, I like to put the cling stamp itself into the MISTI and just press it down. I didn't quite have this in the right position, but here's what I like to do. Paper, a little bit bigger. Why do I do a larger sheet of paper? Is it because I'm a wasteful person by nature? No. I just like to have a little extra area to hold the paper when I'm blending. All right, here's my technique. I'm gonna put 2 pieces of low tack tape on the back of the paper. Then pick up the paper with the MISTI door, and what this allows me to do is when I'm stamping, I'm actually pressing the paper into the stamp. I just find I get a better impression that way. Next, I'll powder up with my embossing magic bag to remove static and oil from the cardstock. Give that a good run over, and I've got my clear embossing ink. And I'll just ink up the stamp really well, work my way around, get a good coating of that clear sticky ink, bring the door over, grab my stamp press tool, and press. Ever since I started doing it this way, like I said, I get better impressions, and it's just easier. I'm going to do this a second time as well, ink it up, and press down. So easy to do with the MISTI tool. It's genius. All right, there you go. It's kind of hard to see, but the stars are there. Now, let's grab our embossing powder here. This is the antique gold, and I just really wanted to do gold stars. But whenever I do an emboss resist technique, which is what I'm going to do today, I just use white or clear. I never think to use any other color of embossing powder. But when I started thinking teachers and gold stars, I thought, you know what? This is what you want to do. You want a sky of gold stars. So getting my powder on there, just like that, tapping it off. And the powder that we put down, that embossing magic, of course, makes it so the powder only sticks to where the stamping was. Here's how I funnel my powder right back into the container. I don't do anything fancy, just the folded piece of paper, although this one started to get a little powder all over my work surface. No big deal. I learned from my friend Jennifer McGuire, just keep a Swiffer cloth handy, wipe it away. My heat tool is nice and hot, so I will work my way around and melt the stars. I like to hold my paper with a clothespin just because it keeps my little fingertips away from the heat. And once all the powder is melted, look at that gorgeous shine. Isn't that pretty? Now on to the ink blending. I pulled in Salty Ocean because I thought I needed a little more color. And I'm going to use one of my older Simon Says Stamp brushes. These are the ones that I tend to use with my oxides, just because the oxides have a totally different consistency, and I don't usually mix and match between dye and oxide inks. So, loading up my brush, and I've got my pad on my little Simon Says Stamp Positively Everything tool, the PET, because it helps to just hold it while you're adding ink, while your other hand is holding the paper. See how that works? It's science. It's fantastic. So I'm bringing in the first color here, and I'm just going to wipe off with a paper towel as I go. And of course, the gold stars, because they are slick and shiny, they will resist the ink, right? That's the old emboss resist. And the color will just fill in all around the stars, and that way we get that cool look. And again, usually I do white powder or clear powder, but I think you're going to like how this turns out. Well, I can't guarantee that you will. You might look at it at the end and be like, yeah, that was a wrong choice, Cathy. But hopefully, stay with me. So, Salty Ocean. And here's the other thing about oxides. They do blend beautifully. Oftentimes I get asked, when do you know to choose an oxide versus a regular distress ink? And I don't really have a rhyme or reason, but sometimes with something like this, I know that these inks are creamy, they're very saturated, they can be very rich and deep on a page, and they're very forgiving. Plus, the way they react with water is really wonderful. Now, so do regular distress inks, but these are just a little creamier. And then when they dry, they're a little chalkier. It's really just, how are you feeling today? Do you know what I'm saying? How are you feeling today? What do you want to use? And if you have a few of each type of distress ink, play with them. Play with them. It's just paper. The thing is, I really haven't done a ton with oxides. I've been card making since 2017, and I feel like I have barely scratched the surface. I haven't had to re-ink a single pad. So that should tell you I'm not using these pads a ton, but every time I do, I think, okay, now we're going to go into a big oxide. Big oxide binge. You know what I mean? All right. So the Wilted Violet coming in. And the other thing, too, about these inks, they have this wonderful ability to sort of build up over the ink before. So you get a blend, but you really can change how they look overlapping because of the opacity levels, which are a little bit higher with these, right? They tend to block out what's underneath, but I'm just going to rub this away. I think this is looking great. Again, it's just about playing and seeing what happens. But isn't that pretty? And you got the shine of the stars. Next, I'm going to take a fan brush. This is it's my new favorite brush. Just wetting it down, because the fan brush is just so great for even baby splatter. I love it. I will never look back. I'm never going to flick on anymore with my fingers. No, the fan brush is the way to go. And when I dab that off, now I have this whole sub-layer of galaxy stars. I love it. Time for stamping. And I'm just going to take a few things. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do yet. I wanted to stamp and play. I haven't used this. Well, this is the first time, I guess. So now I have technically used this as you are watching. But this is a new stamp set that hadn't been stamped. So I'm going to rub my fingers over it, right? Get the coating and the residue off. You can also take like a white pearl eraser. There are ways you can condition, but I just did that. I'm going to powder up with the embossing magic. Take my sticky clear ink and load up the stamps with the ink and stamp down. Sometimes when I'm starting out with a new stamp set, I just stamp more than I need, and then I start to play and decide, do I want this? Do I not want this? But whatever I stamp and die cut, if I don't use it, I'll just set it aside. And I have done that where I pull things that I've already worked with, just to pull them out for another card project. So we're keeping the gold ink, kind of on a gold ink kick right now, but especially this antique gold. Such a pretty gold. It's very warm and I love it. All right, let's see. How did I do there? Yeah, looks pretty good, except for the favorite. Yeah, as soon as I started melting that, I'm like, we're going to have to stamp that one again. See that? I kind of mucked up the E. Again, it's just paper. So, if you have to stamp something again, no big deal. Or if you're happy with it as is, perfect, right? I'm just telling you what I know. But look at how pretty that teacher is. Oh, so good, so shiny and gold. I love it. So I did restamp to our favorite because I just wanted it to look a little nicer. When when there's not a lot going on a card, sometimes you want your grading to be nice. So I've got the coordinating dies, running this through my die cut machine, and cutting everything out. So let's see how I did here. Sometimes I never know, right? I pop it out. I'm like, did I have it lined up well? And that looked good. And that looked good. And that one, I was a little off on that one. You know, sometimes I'll use the Gina K Designs method where I create a paper template. I don't know if you've ever seen her do that, but it's amazing. And sometimes I just roll the dice. And this time I rolled the dice, but then I did that one again because I wanted it to look better. I'm cutting down my panel just a little bit so that I can fit it through my die cut machine. And I'm going to cut another panel using one of my favorite dies from the A2 Layers dies from Waffle Flower. I knew I was going to cut it down from the start. And again, when you have a bigger image to work with, then you crop it how you like it, right? And that is what I do probably 99.9% of the times when I'm creating backgrounds. Isn't that pretty? Shiny, galaxy, love it. So the next step, plan the design. I thought I would do a portrait card because I do a lot of portrait-oriented cards. But you know what? That teacher is just too big, and so landscape it will be. So the card base will be a US A2. I'm going to score this right here at 4 1/4. And when this folds down, it will be 5.5 inches wide by 4 1/4 inches tall. Someone asked me in a comment actually a few videos ago, why do you do so many portrait cards, so many tall cards, you know, the tall orientation? I don't know. I really think it just goes back to all of my days as a graphic designer and working in publishing and magazines. It's just an orientation that feels really good to my eye. But hey, I'm branching out today, popping that down, and look at that glorious margin. It just makes the whole piece pop. I've got some foam squares here on the back of Teacher, and this is where I started to think, well, okay, how am I going to work in my apples? And you know, sometimes you're going to try to fit everything in, and I'm just going to tell you this straight up. You don't have to. If it's really not feeling good, save it for something else, right? Just walk away. Just walk away. Know when to say when, right? I figured there is enough going on with my pretty background that to our favorite teacher, that's going to be all we need. I'm taking off the backers from the foam squares here. I'm just going to add a little liquid glue so that when I place this down, it can wiggle before it sticks permanently into place because, you know, sometimes I stick it down and it's not in the right place. And what I like to do is have it down. It's going to hydroplane a little with that glue, and then I can bring my ruler in very quickly, my clear T-square, just to make sure that everything is straight, and then I can press that down. I'm going to pop the to our favorite right up there, wiggle that into place because I didn't quite get that down in the right place the first time. So again, having that glue on there, very helpful for me. And those little guys, well, they'll find a home somewhere else. And that's it. That's the finished card project. I didn't want to add any more sequins, so there's no booping in this video, but you know, let's go ahead and stamp it inside. Hopefully that'll make up for it because you know, a lot of people wonder, do you stamp anything on the inside? And 9 out of 10 times the answer is yes, I do. I just don't always think to show it in a video. But I'm just going to take this little greeting here, and I'm using my MISTI for this because the nice thing about the MISTI is it's not going to hurt your card. Like you can open it up and have the card hanging out, and it's going to be fine. And I thought I would stamp with prize ribbon. I don't often stamp greetings with oxides, but I thought this would be a nice way to have a beautiful match from the front of the card to the greeting on the inside, and I think that looks pretty good. I'm so grateful my child has had you for a teacher this year. Again, let's give teachers the love. Having been now married to one, well, so I've been married to one for 30 years, but he's only been a teacher for 6 because his midlife crisis was to become an elementary school teacher. Let me tell you, that man works harder than anyone I know. All supplies for this project can be found linked below in the description box, and I'll see you back here with another card project soon. Thanks so much for watching today. I would love to have you become a subscriber to my YouTube channel. And if you do subscribe, be sure to hit the gray bell below the video so that you don't miss the next time I post. Here are a couple other videos that you might be interested in watching. Thanks so much and have a great day.